awake and I do not know where I be.
The drink takes the pain away, dulls your mind.
I am but a man. The dragons are God.
I drink and I know things. That's what I do.
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, and I'm more than ready to embrace the hospitality of your keep. I'm here at Magnum Mills to discuss Season 2, Episode 6 of House of the Dragon, titled Smallfolk. I'd like to apologize that we're a couple days late to the party here. I was on a fishing trip, quite literally, but I'm back for the hot D. Mills, how you doing today?
Probably not as good as you, but what else is new? And we know that y'all out there are doing well because you're checking out Flagons and Dragons presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. We try to keep it nice and easy, simple to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Doesn't require a dragon, just requires you hit the thumb. If you have a dragon, super cool. Have him hit the thumb too on his own account.
And this is where I do tell you that there will be spoilers from this point forward. All aired episodes of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones could and likely will come up in our discussions, as could inside the episode, the official podcast, any interviews, all that good stuff. We will avoid major book spoilers from Fire and Blood, but there will be some references to the books most likely. And if you don't know, now you know.
This is Smallfolk, Season 2, Episode 6, the 16th overall episode of House of the Dragon, originally aired July 22nd, 2024, directed by Andrzej Park. First episode of Hot D that he's directed, but he did direct 6 episodes of Succession, so we know that he's got that HBO pedigree. Written by Eileen Shim. This is her second written by credit on Hot D after Season 1, Episode 8, Lord of the Tides. And he was uncredited, but we're counting it as guest starring anyways. Guest starring Paddy Considine as King Viserys I. And the plot synopsis is: Aemon continues to assert control in King's Landing, and he takes offense to Jason Lannister asking him to assist his army at the Golden Tooth. He orders Criston Cole to march on Harrenhal while dismissing Alicent from the Small Council. The blockade is crushing the small folk of King's Landing, leading to Aegon suggesting that Tywin Lannister seek an alliance with the Triarchy. Rhaenyra and Mysaria take advantage of the situation by sending boats full of food into King's Landing, causing a riot. And they even share a kiss. Aegon orders Larry Strong to summon Otto Hightower to be his hand. Larry turns his attention to Aegon, urging him to utilize his mind to overcome his physical condition. The plan to have Sir Steffon Darkland claim Seasmoke ends in fire and blood despite his Targaryen ancestry. Alicent feels that she's failed her oldest sons, but Gwaine assures her that her youngest son, Daeron, is kind and unlike his brothers. Daemon continues to hallucinate at Harrenhal, but the death of Grover Tully provides him a possible path forward. It is confirmed that Adam and Alan of Hull are the bastard sons of Corlys, who appoints Alan as his flagship's first mate. Adam is pursued by Seasmoke, and at the end of the episode, we hear that Seasmoke has a new rider. Without asking for permission from her council, Rhaenyra heads out to meet him on Syrax.
Yeah, we're going to kick it off here with our overall thoughts on Smallfolk. You know, I was kind of excited. I was like, all right, is this going to be the banger? Is this going to be the kind of chess piece episode? And I think it turned out to be more the chess piece episode, but I don't want to make that out to be a negative. I'm actually very complimentary on some of the developments here with some of the characters, in the way that they're positioned can just really have this thing boiling over the top in the next 2 episodes and then heading into the next season. So I'm really excited about this. I thought it was an interesting development to see that virtually this entire season, you know, Rhaenyra has appeared to be losing the war, so to speak, and something that she did without any, you know, violence or any dragons or any blood, really, might be her best move so far. And so I thought that was pretty interesting to see. I'm fascinated with this situation that they have with Alicent. I really, really love what's going on here. I've wondered for virtually almost this entire season if she was going to maybe stray away from her family and try to do the right thing for the realm. And I think the show's done a great job of continuing to push that button and make you wonder. and I'm certainly am as we head into the final two here, so to speak. So, liked it. Definitely, nothing major. Again, we're all still coming down from the high of the fourth episode, which was just incredible. I think probably the best episode of the season, maybe the series. And it's going to be hard to duplicate that, but I'm excited about these next two. Thought it was really good. Mills, I do have to ask, was there a, relationship here with Rhaenyra? Was she, did she swing on both sides of the fence, so to speak, on in the books? Or is that just purely HBO thing?
I would say mostly purely HBO, just to not put too fine a point on it. Like the Mysaria-Rhaenyra relationship is totally out of whole cloth. And I think that's actually one of the things I liked about the episode. I think everything they did probably tracks as far as where the books ultimately end up, but almost none of this actually comes from the books. And I really like that aspect of it. I still have an idea how some of this stuff is going to work out. I get where they're going. They're definitely remixing some things, but doing it in a good way, same way that Game of Thrones did, same way that The Boys does. He says that The Walking Dead did. Not everything has to be exactly how it was on the page, especially in something like Fire and Blood that isn't incredibly detailed. Some of this stuff that takes an episode is merely, a page or two in the book. I really thought they finally got the right mix here of the plot stuff, moving it forward. They teased the action. I thought the dragons especially looked very, very good. We got them in the dark. We got them in the light. We got them still. We got them moving. You got basically every angle you could want. I thought they looked really good. I thought everything was, again, as always, well executed, looked great, sounded great, all of the usual accolades we can give. Just enough, right? Just enough plot movement. I really thought they balanced this one out. Maybe, one of my favorite episodes of the season. One thing that did surprise me a little bit, would it shock you to know that this is by far the lowest ranked episode of House of the Dragon on IMDb? It's currently a 6.1 right now. There's only two other episodes under 8, and they're a 7.7 and a 7.5. Any thoughts on this? Do you think this is review bombing, or do you think people have a legitimate grade?
Look, I think that the complaints of it's slow are probably valid to a certain degree. That seems way too low for me, but I could see why somebody might not be as high on this episode, especially because again, episode 4 was so good and we really and everyone gave last week's episode a pass, like, all right, they can't do two in a row. I think there's just a lot of pressure and expectations, and maybe some of that's fair and maybe some of it's real unrealistic. I could see why this would be one of the lowest, if not the lowest rated. But that seems really, really, really low. I mean, it was just advancing pieces and building the tension and building the uncertainty of what's going to happen, right? And building all those things that could unravel. And I think the show's so good at that, but it can't be every episode, right? And we've kind of seen more episodes than not be like that. And I think that's probably one valid critique of this series.
What I would probably just say is almost all the people who are thinking this is slow, it's probably because if Game of Thrones hadn't been a thing and someone was just going to straight out set out to adapt Fire and Blood, probably 2 movies. I don't know that I would go for a full TV show, especially knowing some of the scale of the books and everything like that. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to do it this way, which means you can't have a dragon fight every 10 minutes because there's only so many dragons, right? If we have dragon fight every episode, no one's going to ever die. There'll be no consequences and people start getting mad. Well, what's the point of all these dragon fights if no one ever dies? But then if you have them all die at the first 2 seasons, then there's no more dragons. People are going to be pissed at that too. So I really think they're in kind of a lose-lose situation here. If they stray too far from the books people will be mad. You know what I mean? If they stay right to the books, the other people will be mad because they won't necessarily understand everything that's going on. And that's one of the things I think has impressed me the most about this show is that they have managed to thread that needle for the most part. So all I would say, if people are complaining about the pacing, my guess is buckle up for the last 2 here. I think they're kind of saving, the budget and a little bit of the momentum narratively for a reason.
Usually we treat Daemon Targaryen like a Range Rover because the man is a finisher. But that hasn't been working for him as of late. So let's switch it up here and lead off with Daemon and Harrenhal. Mills, just how happy were you to see Paddy Constantine back as Viserys? I mean, the guy's incredible. Loved him in season 1. And I think the thing is true that you just don't know what you're missing until it's gone. Am I right? Or am I right?
I think you're triply right. I just read something that remember Cameo was valued at like $1 billion. a couple of years ago, and now they can't even pay a 600K fine. I would so get a Patty Considine cameo of him just saying the word lickspittle over and over and over. It is just so much fun. Maybe that they can bring that back. We get a, Time Warner, you got that. What does it cost to buy cameo at this point? I don't know, $10 million. You have that laying around. Just get that, get Patty Considine in a room, bust out some lickspittles. Seriously, though, I thought both of the scenes were great. Obviously, the first one in the throne room, it's a little bit of a remix of the scene we've already saw, the King for a Day, when we saw Daemon kind of, celebrating when Viserys's newborn son and wife died. And then you get the other side of it with kind of Daemon going through the other door, right? The little sliding door thing, what he should have done as opposed to what he did. And it really plays nicely off the conversations he has with Alice Rivers, and she kind of talks about the idea, maybe Viserys was a good king because he didn't want to be, and there seems to be a thing that, maybe the people who want power the most are the least suited to have it. And I think there is probably a lot of truth to that. I was definitely surprised too. Good job, show. Didn't see this one coming, even when they saw the throne room. Like when I saw the shot, I'm like, maybe, but they didn't really beat around the bush. You knew pretty quick where it was going, but we'd already seen, a young Rhaenyra sitting on the throne there. So I knew something was coming. It was surprising. It was awesome. And I don't know if they have one more of those left in there for the rest of the season. If this was the last of the random flashbacks or whatever you want to call it, cameos, super awesome. How about yourself, man? You like having the bull back in town?
Oh yeah, dude. He's so good. I thought he was probably one of my favorite parts of all of season one, literally the entire way through. I thought it was really cool. And I like this deep dive that they're doing kind of with Damon and the boundaries of his own mind and how he's handling that. And I thought this was a cool kind of way to top it off. We've seen a lot of different things. I mean, unfortunately, we saw an incest scene with his mother. We probably could have lived without that, but I'd prefer this one over that. So yeah, I like what they did here.
And moving on to the stuff with Alice Rivers, this is something I can't say a ton about. I will say in the books, this really doesn't happen. Most of the Daemon stuff, like Daemon at Harrenhal, is kind of a question mark. It's mostly rumors and stuff like that because again, the story is told from a third person perspective. So if no one's there to see what's happening, you don't find out. So some of this stuff was, probably implied, but some of this isn't from the books. I thought it was definitely a really interesting conversation. She seems to have, a lot of insight into Daemon. What do you think about this here? And do you think she might have been, maybe a little bit responsible for the death of Grover Tully?
It definitely sounded like that. I mean, three sleeps and it happens or whatever it was. So I think that she, again, I want to give credit to the show here. They've done a great job kind of not confusing, but giving outs for what Alice is or isn't from the viewer standpoint. And for somebody who hasn't read the book, doesn't know it, right? And that's where I'm coming from. I like kind of not knowing, I'm still like, is she real? Like I know we've had this discussion where you're like, no, she's a real person, but like I kind of want them to prove it. Is she a ghost? Is she a witch? All those things come into play.
Sir Simon Strong talked
insight.
about sending her there. She sent ravens and everything. She's real, dude.
Yeah, it's just there's something
The only way it's not real is if literally everything we've seen at Darren Hall is an imagination down to Simon Strong, the construction workers, everything. That would be the only way that works. That Daemon is literally by himself in an empty castle.
Whether real or not, I'm just saying there's something mystical about her, and I think that that's a cool element. Who's to say what is real? But I do think that there's something mystical about her, and I really liked it. And yeah, this was a cool development too because she has this weird ability to connect with Daemon where he actually will listen, where a lot of people can't. But then she kind of gave this insight where it's like, wow, she's got more influence than what you thought.
I think probably one thing we should point out about Alice that kind of ties back in to Daemon and what he saw with Viserys is, kind of build on what you said a little bit, like how much is she in his head? I think you're right there, again, I think she's real, but there's definitely something going on there. Like you see her just put her arm and the owl lands on it. I don't think that's a direct like Harry Potter reference, but I know there was a thing with owls and magic. You even hear Larry Strong talk about his family said that it was a sorcerer that caused his leg to be all malformed when he was born. And so there's something like that. Damon's kind of done with it. And I like the idea that he's kind of had it. He walks out, it even looks like his dragon's like, Sir Axis, he's ready to bounce too. And she kind of pulls him back in. But some of the stuff she says seems to kind of mesh with what he saw with Viserys, right? The whole idea that he wanted the crown and then he can't escape Viserys in that throne room. And then when he sees Viserys over Emma's corpse and he's there, is that Daemon trying to prove that he's worthy, kind of? Do you think that's what Daemon ultimately, wanted to do, or what he should have done? Is that him kind of looking for the cosmic do-over? Or, you know what I mean? And is his willingness to do that kind of why it works out with Alice? You know what I mean? Is it one of those, not quite a Stannis Baratheon, in the Red Woman kind of thing, but a little bit like it is kind of all tied together a little bit, and that's why maybe even when Daemon gets the news that Tully's dead, he even squirts a couple of tears?
And certainly asks about the nature, right? And yeah, I think there is something to that. And I think that again, her ability to connect with him and get him to listen and not play along, but like actually hear, right? You can't hear Jimmy. Well, Damon can hear Alice, and I think that's really important note here. And I think it's this whole thing with Damon and Harrenhal to me is him in an internal war with himself. And she has figured out a way to tap into that. Is there a purpose for her other than just kind of manifesting and helping that come to reality and play out for itself for Damon and facilitating his ability to see it? I don't know. It remains to be seen, but she's certainly playing that role right now.
It's kind of interesting, right? Because we'll talk about it in a little bit. Rhaenyra and Mysaria both think they know Daemon really well, but it seems like Alice Rivers has far better insight into what actually makes Daemon tick, kind of, right? Or maybe it's just he's trusting her because it's new or it's the way it's presented. But it seems like, maybe there's more to Daemon than just the surface level. And that's kind of what they're trying to get at with those visions. That the idea, maybe it's the first time he is admitting, maybe he was wrong and he asked her for help, right? She's even like, look at this. Daemon Targaryen asking for help. And I think that was probably a big moment for him, right? He's all about not asking for help. He's there to literally do it himself. Rhaenyra can join me on the throne if she wants. I mean, that's what you get from a man whose Tinder bio says, it is large and formidable, but alas wild. I mean, that is Daemon Targaryen in a bunch. And I mean, he even dropped the hottest diss track in Westeros, dude. I am not like you. That's just, it's very Kendrick Lamar-like, dude. He's basically the Kendrick of the Riverlands right now, I think. It's
Really
pretty fun
is.
out there, dude. The real question is, who is the Drake of Westeros? I don't think we have time to get into that. It may or may not be related to the Muppet names. I don't know. George R. R. Martin works in mysterious ways. And shout out to the I just love the idea. Alice had a couple good digs at the Tullys and kind of just the Rivermen in general, because they're made of mud and they'd rather die stuck in it than yield 1 inch to each other. That also kind of rings true for society these days. People are pretty much kind of stuck in their positions and they don't really come together unless someone can really lead them. And sounds like we think that Alice Rivers kind of pulled the trigger. I think Grover Tully was on his way out anyway. She just probably gave him an assist. Do you think Simon Strong believes that David had something to do with it? When he gives him the news there, do you think he's kind of like in the know, like, oh yeah, sure, you had nothing to do with it? Do you think he thinks that Damon did, or it was just a quinky dink?
Yeah, I think while he remains curious, he also knows not to question. He plays it pretty smart, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's be honest. This all has to be real, because if Simon Strong isn't real, then I don't want to live in this world. Simon Strong has to be real. Probably the other kind of main thing here is Jason Lannister at the tooth. Is he being a little bit weak, or do you blame dude being like, yo, he's got a dragon. I kind of don't want to go there unless we have Vhagar. Is he being doing the kind of the Lannister thing and hedging his bets, or is this pretty legit? Like he's just being a smart commander?
And they call me the Hedge Knight for a reason. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And here's why. I think that the show has done a great job making everyone in the realm now know this is a war of dragons. And this is not, a normal setting war. And I think anybody who's involved in the war, particularly fighting in it as a man in this one, right, knows that and is concerned about it. So I think that's real. But I also think this is typical. Hey, that certainly increases our position. Send him out here, let him do most of the work, and we'll continue to win. And I do think there's a point to that, right? I mean, how successful can they be if the other side has a dragon and they don't?
They do have lions in cages, though. I
That
definitely
was
looked
pretty
at that. I'm
cool.
like, somewhere in the future, Cersei Lannister is going to be just dreaming of this, like having one of her Mysaria dreams or something like that. Just really, really, I don't know if she wanted elephants or whatever, but they bring in. Do you think they actually use the lions to fight, or they just purely for show?
I don't know. It would be interesting to see how they
I mean,
not
train a lion,
tame,
right? The
train
lion's
the
gonna
lie.
lie, like
Yeah.
tiger goes tiger. We've seen this with Siegfried and Roy, I feel.
Yeah, like to make sure that the lion's not killing Lannisters. But yeah, I think that was I felt
That's
bad
a
for it
huge
because it's like,
flex
dude,
just to
that's
bring
a
those around in cages, just to show to like basically the people after you defeat them, right? I mean, that's a really weird flex.
it's a strange flex. I felt bad for the lion. Give it a bigger cage, right? I mean, come on, it needs more room to roam. The other plot that's not really connected to anything else right now is Rhaena and the kids at the Eyrie. Mills, were you surprised to find out there's a large wild dragon in the Vale, or did you know this was coming? And you know what? Phrasing. Boom, we're doing it. Phrasing is totally back on the menu. Let's just embrace it.
Right? It's like breakfast at McDonald's. Like, why can I not get hotcakes at 2 and then a hash brown at like 3 in the afternoon? Some people just want that. I was surprised. I think this is a case where they're remixing something from the book. I don't want to say too much if that's the case because I could accidentally ruin some stuff. But did you were you clear on that before that Lady Aaron told Rhaena, like when you saw the charred bones and everything, did you get that? Like kind of like there's a dragon there, like you there was easy enough to understand, and it probably wasn't, Vagar or something.
Right, it was. I wondered what the heck it was, but there was something there that was feeding, right? You saw and I like they kind of ground level and then aerial view to kind of get the scope of just how big it was and what could possibly do that. I found that to be relatively easy to follow.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure of who it is because we see the carcasses of a bunch of sheep, and that may or may not have something to do with the name of the dragon, who I think this might be in the book. I think the one thing I will just point out here, because they said it in the show, I don't know if we'll get to it necessarily, but when we get to the scene with Sir Stefan Darkland, Corlys throws out the idea. Someone's like, "Hey, what's up with Rhaena? Why doesn't she drive ride one of these dragons?" And Corlys is like, "Oh, she's already tried. None of the dragons here would take her for a rider." We did see their little pet dragons too. Dude, let's be honest here. In like 200 years, someone's going to genetically engineer like pet dragons, right? It's totally going to bring about the end of the world, but I'm still going to buy one anyways.
They're so cute. If I don't want to miss dragons. Let me still be alive while dragons happen. They were so cute. I want one.
Right, but if you're giving out pet dragons, they better be actual dragons. This better not be bullshit like when they brought out hoverboards and they weren't actual hoverboards.
Right.
Like it can't just be a cat with a fake wings or something like that. I mean, I need
We were
fire, I need
promised
blood.
hoverboards. We still don't have them.
Oh, I'm still very,
yeah,
very pissed.
not over it.
So let me ask you here, early prediction, because I can't really say anything here. We hear Lady Aaron tell Rhaena, like, "Oh, you're good for Operation Pentos." The dude over there said, Prince Reggio's like, "All right, y'all can come over, take the boys, take you, the dragons." Do you think they're all going over there? They all going to make it to Pentos?
This is interesting because it kind of feels like she's shipping them off, and now that they know that there's a dragon looming, and is it because she's on team green here or what? I don't think they make it over to Pentos. I don't know why. But to your point with Corlys saying none of the dragons will take her, maybe this one will. We see in this episode, I know we'll get to it, but dragons picking their own riders. So maybe something happens here with her, but I don't know that they make it to Pentos.
Okay, that's fair enough. This is one where I don't dare say anything. And I guess this would technically be, well, for a second there were 3 available dragons, Vermithor, Silverwing, Sea Smoke, and that now we have this kind of unknown wild dragon near the Vale, but it sounds like Sea Smoke might be off the board, but that maybe means we still have 3 riderless dragons out there. So, that's like nuclear weapons that have been lost. It's a good idea to track those down, maybe get those unlocked.
Yeah. It's surprising to me that like one family dynasty controls all dragons, and yet there's some that are unclaimed. Just it's a bizarre thought, but
Makes you wonder, maybe that's why Lady Aaron wasn't quite as mad when they didn't show up with the real full-size dragon she asked for. Like, fine, I would
She
be a
had to have
dragon
known.
rider. I already have had. Yeah, you wonder, like, because that's nothing from the books. So I'm just purely speculating here. I can't ruin anything, but she seems kind of clever, so it wouldn't surprise me here, mate. You know what I mean? So I'm curious. She's not really a big character in the books, and they're trying to flesh some of these characters out. Like say Gwaine. You know, Gwaine's basically a nobody in the book, so I'm curious as to where they go with this one. You know, it's the one plot's a little bit underserved in the episode, probably, but it's intriguing where they're going with it. So I'm kind of looking forward to this one.
Well, let's head over to King's Landing and check in on Team Green, starting with the one-eyed asshole, Aemond. Like Frankie Blue Eyes here, he wants to do it his way, but is he getting a bit too big for his britches here, Mills?
I mean, the whole idea that he is just so offended that Jason Lannister dare kind of summon him or whatever.
He dares to summon me with haste.
Like, dude, he's going up against probably the second biggest dragon that is around these days. Is it really like that crazy that he's like, yo, can you come help me out? You're super huge, awesome dragon that's undefeated.
Right.
Maybe that doesn't sound like a crazy ass. It doesn't sound like Aemon is just kind of being, you know, a little bit of a prick here. And I like how he just turns it around on the Lannisters. That's the only good part about having these Lannister twins is there's always one of them to yell at. And this is, again, something that's not really in the books that they're remixing. In the books, it's Otto Hightower's idea to get with the Triarchy to try to break the blockade. But that's actually while Aegon is still around. So this is something they have kind of repurposed. Same thing, we hear the Greyjoys get shouted out here. Dude's even like, yo, let's Mary Ellison off to the Red Kraken. None of that is in the book. So maybe they will kind of bring in a little bit bigger role for the Greyjoys here. Kind of a little bit of shout out to Game of Thrones. Did that pique your ears a little bit hearing the familiar name?
I think it definitely did. I mean, look, man, what is dead cannot die. I love the Greyjoys. I thought that was one of the cool kind of places to go within Game of Thrones, you know, both visually and just kind of what they stood for and everything. I thought it was really cool. And then of course Theon and that whole journey he goes on. But yeah, pierced my ears. I will say with Aemond here, while on one hand he's showing this just incredible ego and kind of too big for his britches. I mean, literally with being pissed that he's being summoned, when really that's what he was kind of the hired gun that went out there and took care of business with the big dragon. That's kind of who he is, right? I did think he showed one bit of strength, you know, wanting to get you know his grandsire back, Otto back his hand, and it was funny how he did it with Larys, right? And but yeah, I thought that was one bit of strength that he showed, one good move, surrounded by a bunch of other crap, you know. So
That's actually, again, something else that is not in the books at all. For the most part, it's just Cole remaining the hand, although Aemon is the full authority. It is a little bit ironic. Like, I don't know if it's a full Atlantis alert or not, but Aemon's whole thing is like, yo, I want to go out in the field. Finally, someone's asking, like, yo, we could use some help out here in the field. He's like, how dare you ask me to come out in the field?
yeah.
I don't know if that's, you know, ironic or leopards ate my face. I don't know which one it is, but
And this is a weird talking point this season, is those in charge, their desires to be in the field, it failing and or succeeding, and then their lack of wanting to go. It's this weird thing on both Team Black and Team Green, and you're seeing it here with now Aemond in the seat.
I was definitely excited to hear that Otto should be back, and I thought that was, you know, a very interesting move by Aemon to kind of recognize that. I don't know if it just maybe because he just sat on Larry Strong, and that's, again, Larry Strong never asked for the position of hand in the book. Just a bad move, right? This dude's always so great, and he sells himself on his shrewdness and his subtlety. His pitch for hand is about the least subtle pitch I've ever heard in my life. So that kind of undermines his whole capability there, right? If your whole point is like you're going to do it without me noticing, it should not be so overt when you're looking for the job.
Yeah, and you know, this is the first time we've really seen him kind of stub his toe. He's been pretty much aces, you know, throughout season one up until this point. He really stubbed it hard here.
And one thing you can tell is that Aemon listened to Viserys, while Aegon probably didn't, because when he's pissed off, what does Aemon break out? The lick spittle. He has no time for these lick spittles and flatterers, dude. I feel like I need to work lick spittle into the mix more. Larry Strong is right, though. He is the only one that clocks the upcoming problem with the small folk. And the boy even brings it up, like, oh, dude, the small folk could become restless. And Aemon's like, Oh, like dude could literally. I know they're kind of making up some rumors about him or anything, but a dude really does not seem to care. Like literally, he's just kind of out for revenge, and they kind of even reference that on the inside of the episode. That's kind of his deal. Like Aegon's all like fire and emotion, and Aemon is just like ice cold revenge. Like basically, I've heard them refer to him as the Terminator, kind of. And I guess
Yeah.
that makes a little bit of sense. And I think that's why I was maybe, a little bit of surprised that he did bring back Otto. And I did love his reaction when the Maester comes in and be like, oh, dude, Aegon's like looking D's. I think he's going to make it. And he's like, what happy news. Jamie G, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I don't think he was that happy.
I don't think he was happy at all. And I thought it was interesting with Aemond. You really got to see kind of that stone cold ice in the veins.
Before we get to Larry's scene with Aegon, let's talk about the Aemon and Aegon scene real quick. Aegon claims he doesn't remember what happened. You think he's telling the truth?
No, I think he fears Aemond. I think he knows exactly what happened, and he knows his life is in danger, specifically by Aemond. And I think he's now afraid of him because he's in a weakened position, and he should be.
Yeah, it was that subtle bit where, Aemon brings up his little ball for the small council and just pushing it. And for the angle for a second, I thought he actually created like a new hole in his chest or something. I think that's just where they've had to scoop out all of the burned flesh and everything. Shout out to everyone doing the makeup and everything. Aegon looks just absolutely just horrific and disgusting. And it really helps to sell it, I think. In Larry's, I think, gives a really interesting pitch.
People will pity you, either behind your back or in your presence. And they will stare at you, or turn away. And they will underestimate you.
Do you think he was being true? Like he feels maybe a little bit of kinship with Aegon now because they are kind of, mangled a little bit physically or physically, whatever you want to call it. They're not normal, right? They're not like everybody else. Or is this just Larry's doing his usual thing, playing the angles? I swear I saw him squirt a tear or two. I think you're probably going to say a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Does he do this even if Aemon makes him hand? Is he even having this conversation with Aegon? I don't know that he is, but it
I don't
did
think
feel like
so.
there was a little bit of realness to it.
Look, it's relevant. He experienced this, and he's trying to. But make no mistake about it, Larys had the relationship with Aegon. Aegon saw value in him, made him his master of whispers, and Larys has not had that same level of connectivity and trust and desire out of Aemond for his services. And I think his best play is to continue to work on Aegon, hope he makes it, regains power, and then goes forward. I will say I'm a little bit surprised that, we've literally got the king here. I'm a little bit surprised that there's not round the clock security on him in this weakened state. I mean, is anybody can go in the room and mess with him? I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit surprising.
The one thing I will say against Larry is the dude is a literal buzzkill. The drink takes the pain away, but it dulls your mind. Dude, that's kind of the point. If I were to shout out Aegon, if he's going to follow that and really, you do hear him ask for Larry's help at the end, that's going to be tough, man. I've been in the hospital and refused the good stuff before, and that can hurt. When Alicent comes to visit, Aegon is kind of non-responsive. Do you think he's playing possum or is he really knocked out?
This is a weird one for me. I can't seem to track what's going on here. I think it's a little bit of should have listened to his mom. And let's not forget the last conversation they had. She basically told him, you don't belong on here. We put you on here. Shut up, sit down, listen. And he didn't. And then look what happened. So I think that's a mental thing he's going to have to go through.
I think that's probably about right. I mean, maybe he's even so terrified of Aemon that he's worried anything he says to his mom eventually might work his way back to him or something like that.
Yeah.
As far as Alicent herself, this was kind of a rough episode for her. The whole thing with the small council, this is something they addressed a little bit on the inside the episode. And they basically presented it as like Aemon, it wasn't personal. He's just kind of like one of those dudes. He thinks she should be in the kitchen or pumping out babies or whatever. That's just kind of not her place. on the small council, he literally told her to return to more domestic pursuits. So that's where she drops the line from the teaser there.
Have the indignities of your childhood not yet sufficiently been avenged?
I mean, is that it? Is it ever going to stop? Is he just one of those dudes like this is going to be the slight that just drives him forever and he's just going to keep this up? And because I think this is it, right? The ship has sailed for Alicent getting through to him. And do you think, she's reached the point she might be accepting that? It seems based on her conversation with Gwen, she might be a little bit.
I think so. And I think this has been a great job of the show here. I want to give some credit to what they've done with Alicent this season, where, you kind of saw her draw this hard line with Rhaenyra during their scene together, but then also realize maybe she was wrong, but it's too late. And now you've seen her kind of go back and forth with inside her. A lot of this season is people, characters dealing with their own internal demons and what to do. And I think this was her final kind of chance to just see, is Aemon still human? Is my son still in there or not? And very quickly she realized the answer is no. And now she looks at both these two, Aemon and Aegon, both, disappointments or whatever you want to call it for different reasons. But they're both in that same box of she failed as a parent with them. And now she's lost the ability to change that. And I think that for any parent, that's terrifying, but the stakes are obviously higher here because now you have, the whole element of we rule the realm.
Yeah, you mentioned her kind of speech to Aegon there that maybe is part of the reason he goes out there on Sunfire to battle. She kind of gives Aemon the same thing here, right? She tells him about her place on the council. It's not an obligation. The council's need of a tempering voice. And he's like, well, we have more than enough of those. And then she tells him, you have the impetuousness of youth and its arrogance, neither of which is to be desired in a king. And I think that leads right into her conversation with Gwen, where she's like, he kind of like gives her the out, like, oh, maybe just the Red Keep, that's nowhere to raise kids, right? And she's like, yeah, was it the court or was it their mother? And I think that kind of drives her, and that's where we get the, the little bit of foreshadowing here, hearing about Daeron, who I don't want to say too much about, but she seems very hopeful when Gwen is like, he seems to be decent. Like, people like him. He's kind. Music, he can fight. Like, he sounds like he might be the quote unquote, the good son or whatever that the white sheep is that the opposite of the black sheep. I don't really know who's the black sheep. I don't know if we've ever really figured that out. It definitely shout out Gwen, super come up here. I really enjoyed the conversation between the two, and I thought it gave us a little bit of insight to Alicent, some fun kind of character development for Gwen. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, Gwen's kind of been, obviously he's jamming when he's not jamming to Guar, he's doing his thing on the road here. But I enjoyed this, and I thought it was cool because, there was that weird connection where at first it's like, was she out there to try to talk to Cole, right? And then Gwen kind of sees her and she goes there. I thought this was one of the better exchanges of Gwen that wasn't just kind of like comedic relief during the first march of Rook's Rest with Cole, where you saw some of his commentary. This was interesting to me, and I thought it was also kind of like a bigger life lesson. Like, was it best, even though she wasn't a part of Darren's life, did she do him right by sending him off to away from the Red Keep to be raised? And it sounds like maybe she did. Cool stuff here.
I believe she sent him to Old Town. And shout out, we have the word of the day here, dropped by Gwen.
Yes, it seems the Red Keep, for all its privileges, may in fact be a less than salubrious environment for the forming of young men.
The word of the day is salubrious. It means favorable or promoting health or well-being. So like you said, maybe just, you want to be raised with your parents, but in an environment that's incredibly toxic. Maybe just being out of there, it's kind of addition by subtraction kind of thing. You're not already starting at a net negative. How much harder is parenting in the Red Keep, especially when it sounds like Alicent spent most of her time running the realm because Viserys was in such bad health. So she didn't have a lot of time to focus on her kids. And honestly, she probably never thought they were going to be king, right? The assumption was Rhaenyra would take over. She didn't really think this was coming. So I don't think she ever really spent a lot of time preparing or even thinking about her kids rising to the throne. So I think she's really just finally now coming to grips with all that.
Well, and I think the only I think, Alicent remained throughout it all kind of, I will do the right thing by Viserys. And she even, you saw even in that conversation with Rhaenyra, she had believed she did. But I think Otto and other people all along knew we're doing this one way or the other. And it was almost like they knew and Allison didn't. And Allison was more naive, I think, in season one. You're starting to see that kind of go away now, where she's not hardened to the world, but I think she's certainly more so than she was in season one.
Yeah, I think that is a very astute read of the situation. And it's a nice comparison too, because you always got the feeling like Aegon and Helena were kind of her favorites a little bit. And Aemon was kind of the redheaded stepchild or whatever euphemism you want to use. Gwen felt the same way, right? Alicent was the favorite child, and he wasn't. So I think she is now kind of gaining a little bit respect for that and kind of realizing, what her, not necessarily privilege, but just how different it was when you were kind of the favorite child. And Gwen gets a nice line about Otto. Otto Hightower is ever resourceful. He will send news when there is news to send. It does sound like Otto has been ghosting everybody, JVG. Do you think he's up to something, or is he just taking a vacation?
I would love to think he's just taking a vacation, but I don't believe that to be true. I think Otto is trying to do his work. I think he was angry, disappointed, but also, but it was kind of his own demise. He made sure Aegon got put on that throne, right? So I think he's dealing with that, but also trying to do his work and pull his strings in whatever capacity he can. And I think that's what he's been focused on since he left the Red Keep.
I wouldn't mind if we could get into full on sorcery and like he's trying to do some blood magic stuff so he could ride a dragon. Like if Otto just like showed up on a dragon. Just like, all right, Amon, I'm so sick of you. I've got my own dragon. I am just done with that. But that's too big scale. We should drop it down and talk about the titular small folk. This plot with the food and the boats is another thing that's not in the books. It's kind of made up out of whole cloth. I enjoyed it, and I think we also saw what Mysaria's plan is, right? She is trying to fan the flames of the small folk. In that conversation we saw in the tavern there, where they're talking about how good it is. They're up in the Red Keep eating lamb and everything like that, and everyone else is just eating fish. And then right down to they talk about the inside the episode having to hit the actress in the face with the fish. I thought
And that was
just
gross, dude. There was a gross chunk and she kept it there. I was like, oh man, that was the real nasty gut chunk there on the cheek. But it was there. I was just like, I know you're in a panic, but I don't care if Freddy Krueger's chasing me, dude, and I'm dropping my keys. If I got gross chunk of gut on my face, I'm taking a minute to just wipe it off. I could die, but I'm taking a minute to wipe it off.
This the sound even when it hit her face, the squish.
Oh,
so well
gross.
done, just so well done. We can kind of jump in and out of this, the whole riot part of it. I will say, how great must have been to be one of those first, like that first guy who finds the boat, dude. You're just like, what are you doing? You're just like taking off your bindle, making like a hobo bindle. I mean, you're just trying to get as much of that home as possible before everybody else knows, right? A couple people became rich that day,
All the way up
probably.
on the beach. I'm hiding that. I mean, yeah, how I thought that this scene was so cool because you see just the despair digging for crab or whatever it is, anything you can find, and then all of a sudden you look up and you see that boat and you see the flag, and then you realize what's on it, and then the camera spans out and you see all of them coming. I thought this was really, really cool looking scene. And also I mentioned it in my opening remarks here when we talked about just kind of our overall thoughts. By far the most effective war strategy Rhaenyra has deployed thus far. And I loved how this kind of played out. And it's paid off a little bit because I thought some of the parts with the small folk, the guy with the sick kid and the wife that wants to leave and all that was somewhat annoying kind of throughout this. And it's weird because they're pairing that with somebody who is also claiming to be of Targaryen descent. And you're seeing kind of both those two stories. The best part about the small folk for me has been the dog. And I love that good old boy got a good pet this episode. He got a really good pet. He deserved it. Rub behind the ears. But I think it paid off with this plot line a little bit. They didn't do it too much, but at times it was just kind of like, and I'm a fan of seeing small folk world, right? I like Flea Bottom and all that, but I think it paid off. And this was super effective. I don't know if it was effective enough to change your sexual orientation, but hey, to each their own. It was pretty effective, though. I will give it that.
Yeah, and shout out Hugh the Hammer. Not only a great name, the Wu Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Like when that dude, he just grips the guy and just steals his, his little, whatever, a sack of food. That's the one thing I will say, that they're starving, right? They're starving. It looks like they got like lettuce, cabbage, and carrots. Isn't that what people eat when they're trying to starve themselves? Is that ironic? I'm not sure. That might be satire. I get them confused sometimes. I
One or
really
the
do
other.
think. And do you buy that Allison and Helena made it out of there basically unscathed? It looked like they were cornered for a minute, man. They were up at that one spot. There were like spikes sticking out of the wall and everything. I was worried there was going to be like a full-on situation going there. I was a little surprised they made it out unscathed, other than, the one dude who got his arm just cut off, which was a nice shot, by the way. That was cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. I appreciated the just kind of the camera scanning where you realize it got all the way off. Makes you wonder just how sharp some of these things are back in the day. Obviously pretty sharp.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, that was nice and clean. And we only have one other scene with Helena. It's when she's looking at three birds and she kind of comments that one of them has stopped singing. I don't want to say anything. Can you read anything into that?
Look, when Helena does something, I'm listening, right? We saw it earlier this season with the cheese and the rat and everything. I wish they would dive all, dig into this a little bit more because I'm a fan of kind of these not these, not that she's like psychic, see the future, but I like kind of some of these powers that maybe she has. And I think it's important to kind of remind the world that this stuff exists within the realm, within the universe, especially at a time when dragons are living and magic is alive. So I think it's cool, and we the show hasn't really had a ton of it. I wish they would. That's not a gripe, but I wish they would do more with it. But yeah, I think it clearly means something. Like I said, when Helena speaks, I listen.
Yeah, she's really kind of all about the prophecies, and they were, I think, a lot bigger part of Game of Thrones. I will say that there is some of this in the books, but it's not crazy. It does make me wonder if they're hesitant about it a little bit, because I think they got burned on some of that with Game of Thrones. Some of the stuff they kind of set up that maybe never went anywhere, so they want to be careful not to put too many breadcrumbs out there, lest people be pissed off if they never get a meal at the end of the trail. I enjoy it though. I'm all for it. Go for it. But you do, from a writing standpoint, you do, if you're going to bring it up, you do need to kind of pay it off then.
Well, let's move on to the double D's. Driftmark and Dragonstone, not the other ones. I think we should save the fireworks factory for the end here. So where do you want to start with Driftmark and Dragonstone?
I think we probably just start with Corliss. I don't think either of us are surprised that he took the hand gig. I think we were pretty sure that was coming. Let me flip this back around to you a little bit, because I knew about the hulls. You had kind of danced around it before. Were you surprised at all to have it confirmed that they are the bastard children, the bastard sons of Corliss?
It tracked. I think it made a lot more sense. I was starting to kind of think that, there was a weird energy with Reyna with that one scene and now it makes so much sense where she's like, your mother must have been beautiful. Now it even makes more sense knowing what we think we know with Sea Smoke. I know we're gonna get there, but it's like, I'm really curious to see. Clearly Corlys' seed won the battle because those kids look more like him than than a Targaryen. But yeah, I think it was pretty cool. They tracked. They did it in a weird way, just kind of the two of them. I think they would have had options on how they wanted to kind of reveal. They didn't really make it a big reveal, but I thought it worked, and it didn't necessarily shock me. If anything, it gave me some comfort of like, okay, that makes sense. I kind of saw that. Yeah.
Because it's one thing I picked up on, and they mentioned it on the inside the episode. Did you understand that this is what the dude does? He shaves his head every day because he has the Targaryen white hair, and he doesn't want anybody to know, so that's why he's shaving his head.
Yeah.
Was it clear enough for the way they did it? Because you could only see a little bit of white stubble there, but if you shave your head every day, that's all there should be. So I thought it made sense. I thought it was a nice job of doing a small detail there that kind of, reaffirmed it, but without, having a flashing light pointing at it, being like, look, they're related. He's got the hair, And shout out to shaving your head every day in that day and age. And there is a little bit of an Alanis alert here when Alan says, the sea snake would sooner have high tide claimed by the sea than call us his sons. Stop wasting your life waiting for something that'll never come. Because I don't know, maybe something will come for Adam, but we will get to that in a minute. Let's kind of move over, because we haven't really talked about it yet, to Sir Stefan Darkland. Jamie G, don't lie to us. On some level, your heart sang when you saw a dude named Stefan get burned for his hubris.
Yes. I did. You know, he wasn't as big of an asshole, so he didn't really deserve it. But you know, there was a little bit of pleasure there. Go Bills! But in all seriousness, here, Mills, I don't want Rhaenyra to be so down on herself for trying this. I know she lost a good soldier. I know there's members of her council that were against it, but I thought it was worth the risk. If that hits and lands, and for a second it looked like it would have, and he did it willingly. He knew, he was honored. I mean, come on, dude, that's legend right there. I mean, that's stuff that it's like, hey, that's what I live for type of stuff. So if that hits, dude, that's a game changer for them. I thought it was worth the risk. And what a cool scene, man. Although I will laugh at one thing. I was like, the guys holding like this thin stick, like that's going to do a damn thing to control that dragon. Like, come on, that thing was about a toothpick width. Like, come on, dude, that was a clear, absolute joke. I'm like, that's nothing. That wouldn't stop me, let alone a dragon.
Why do you think Sea Smoke didn't accept him? Because it looked like, was he just like doing the banana in the tailpipe? Was he sucking in? Because it looks like he puts his head down, he's submitting. And then Sir Stefan Darkland's kind of like, oh, I got this. Is that why? Did he get the hubris if he had been, or was he not confident enough? I don't really know which way to read this. And George has been pretty clear. He says eventually he's going to tell us more about the bond between the dragons and the riders. But for now, this is all choose your own adventure. So what did you take away? Was it a particular reason? Was Sea Smoke just not in a good mood? Was it something to do with Sir Stefan? Any thoughts on this?
Interesting, because it looked like it was working, and I think again the dragon wants a rider. They mentioned it in the previous episode. He misses his bond, right? And so he was looking for that. But I do think like once Sea Smoke went down, I think Sir Stefan went the wrong way here and just kind of got over arrogant and was like, and I think that the dragon may have noticed that and was like, no, this is a mutual thing. You respect me. And I think he took it as disrespect, and that was it. But we'll find out more. I know George Martin came out and said that in the future books or whatever, there'll be more detail about how the bond is formed and what it means and all that kind of stuff. But for me, that's how I took it, as the Sea Smoke felt disrespected.
To each their own. There's no right answer on this one. I think it's something like that. I guess my only takeaway is that it has something to do, like there has to be some kind of link, right? So there's something to do with the mental state, right? So something, I don't know if it shifted in that moment or the dragon was just toying with them all or whatever. I'm here for the spinoff series just about the dragons. Probably have to be animated for the cost, but I would be there for that. And the other big move here is a shout out the boy Celtigar here, the lord that Rhaenyra just slaps the shit out of. Because when they're walking in that hall and that dude is talking, I literally wrote in my notes, I'm like, man, Rhaenyra should just punch this dude in the face.
His numbers were few, but we may yet retake.
It is my fault, I think, that you have forgotten to fear me.
And it wasn't a full-on closed fist, but man, I just thought that was a great moment. And I thought that was kind of like, not quite the moment there it all turned around for her, but I think that was kind of the start of maybe Rhaenyra getting her groove back a little bit. Did you read it that way?
I did. And I think she realized it's her fault that he doesn't fear her. This has been building, dude. We basically this entire season since Daemon left, her counsel has been not, I won't say disrespectful to her, but they have been speaking very openly and freely, and you should do this and trying to, and this guy's just following her. I don't care who's following me like that, dude. I'm turning around. Stop talking to me right now. Like, that was just ridiculous. And I loved it. I love this moment for her. She needs to regain. She's been, look at it her way, man. She's had all these people on the council telling her this, telling her that, complaining she's doing it the wrong way, taking her time, this and that. She can't go to war. She can't use her dragon. She finally just snapped. And I think it was, you can only hack at a tree for so long before it falls over. So I thought it was justified. Of course, I don't promote violence in any way, but I thought it was justified.
I think it was. Let me put it this way. He ain't talking that way to Aemond.
No.
No one's like, when
people fear Aemond.
Someone dares summon Aemond. Aemond, can I have your help, please? How dare you? You know what I mean? So
right.
I think it is totally fair. Rhaenyra has been boxed in. She feels like all she can do is send ravens, right? And took like this one play with the dragon was kind of the only shot she had, and you can't really blame her for shooting it, because if you gain a dragon, that is just a massive, massive changing of the status on the battlefield there. And
Yeah.
I did love the idea that she just complains like, dude, can we stop talking about Damon? Like that's all anyone ever wrote. Damon, Damon, Damon. First of all, that's nice meta commentary for all the people on the show that are like, what's Damon? What's Damon doing? It's like Poochie on The Simpsons a little bit. And then when she said Damon's name 3 times, I thought she was trying to summon him like Beetlejuice. But in retrospect, I think it's more like Al Pacino in Dick Tracy, where it's like Tracy, Tracy, Tracy. She's like Damon, Damon, Damon. It wasn't a full-on Beetlejuice, but if Damon would have just appeared, it would have been cool. Like he's riding a sandworm instead of a dragon. Be like, did you just call me?
Oh man, you just got me on like, could you imagine like a spin-off movie like Dragon
It's a Dune
versus
crossover. Because Dune
Sandworm?
has the big sandworm, so it would be a Beetlejuice, Dune, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon crossover.
That like
Big,
like a Freddy versus Jason dude, but like a
we're getting everyone back in the cinemas for this one, dude. We're gonna save
Yeah,
the
that
summer
would be
of
very
26 or something like that.
let's do it.
I thought that was cool though, because this is the kind of you get the play with Jace, right? Jace doesn't get a lot to do this episode. Let me just ask you quick: did Jace like the fact that Rhaenyra slapped dude, or was he kind of like, "Ooh, that's not proper"? I couldn't tell.
I think he liked it. I think he liked her taking control and don't speak to my mother that way. She is the queen. That this is our claim. You don't disrespect her and speak to her that way. I think he kind of liked it.
I almost think he's more like, you should have just like cut out his tongue then or something like that, because he
Yeah.
seemed more worried that people are talking about it. He seems like it was the right thing to do, but he's kind of like, everyone's talking about it. So I don't know. It was kind of a double way to read it, but then you get like he walks away and then you get Mysaria come up. And I think that's one of the little twinges of the BE I got when she kind of takes Jace's place at her side and they're standing there kind of out of the castle, like overlooking the harbor and everything like that. And then you get it a little bit more when Rhaenyra's like, all right, screw that. We get the scene from the trailer when she goes down, she gets a sword out and everything. And Mysaria's like checking her out. She's like, it becomes you. So, that's when you start to get the twinges there. And obviously, Mysaria hit a home run on the Smallfolk thing, right? This seems to be the most successful thing of their campaign thus far, without a doubt.
Yeah, this was a very smart, strategic move, and it paid off. And credit to Mysaria for having the foresight to understand the power of the small folk and proving her value here. This was the best. There's really nothing, no other wins for Team Black here other than this, and it's a big one. So, and we've seen it kind of building, and I think it's going to boil over as we continue into the remainder of the season. But yeah, big win here. And it was interesting because Rhaenyra is so in her own head when Mysaria delivers the news. She's kind of like, "Oh, I thought this would please you." And it should, because it's remarkable, but I think Rhaenyra is just really in her own head right now.
Yeah, and I think that's why Mysaria is so important. Again, this is something that's not the way it is in the book, so I can speak pretty freely on this. As far as the inside the episode, they basically said that Mysaria is Rhaenyra's real advantage right now. She doesn't really have the advantage as far as the dragons, the land armies. She's got the navy, she's got Mysaria, and then Mysaria is kind of her real shadow hand, right? Because Corlys, he's going back out to sea. So Mysaria probably is going to have to be her, quote unquote, right-hand man, or her Gale Friday, or whatever you want to call it. And she's also kind of filling the void that was left by Rhaenys, right? Because this was Rhaenys' role before, kind of being that other strong woman with experience that could relate to Rhaenyra. So I thought, well done overall. The one thing I didn't love, I get the idea that Mysaria was always going to have a tragic backstory. This is not from the books, but did they really have to make her backstory based around incest with her father?
I know. It could have been anything.
One note, they really just play the shit out of that note, man. It's like, who let the dogs out?
But sadly though, and this is absolutely tragic, the majority of like child rapes are family members or close family friends. It's disgusting. It's tragic. There's no place for it in the world, and I hate it. And this was hard to hear, but it's a sad reality that this type of stuff still happens in the world, not just in Westerosi folklore. So sad, but yeah, it's just another HBO incest thing. They just go there. It's I don't know. They just go there.
Extra sad because this is the most, I don't even know what to say, but the most realistic of the incest, unfortunately.
Right.
I don't know that there's fun incest,
which is
almost like
also tragic,
too real, kind of like, you know what I mean? Most of the other incest is kind of played off as like something that happens in this world. And this is more jarring, I think, because it is something that does happen, like you said, very often in the real world. But I think it makes sense to sell why Mysaria might really be into this, right? Because you can tell, like, she gives the backstory, Rhaenyra gives her the hug, and I'm trying to figure out, you start to get the idea where it's going. And my main question is, it seemed real in the moment. Do you think this is real on Mysaria's end, or is she playing the angles?
I don't know. This whole thing with her, this whole season has been a real question mark, and that's again a credit to the show, a credit to the writing, a credit to what we're looking at. It seemed like in the moment, she's gone from being a prisoner. Let's just talk about Mysaria's arc for a second. She went from being a prisoner, right? That didn't give the information or what was asked of her, right? And didn't appear to be valuable, to now being Rhaenyra's closest counsel and potential lover. I mean, this is a massive swing, dude. I mean, you went from like prisoner, being exiled, sent out of Westeros, to this. And it's remarkable. Every time I see Mysaria and see what she's doing, I believe more and more she's vested in believing that this is what's right for the world. So I'm going to lean on that side. This whole lover thing, I could not wait to ask you if this was in the books. And I don't believe it is, but I think you kind of said that earlier in this episode, but I'm not against it. I thought it was cool that this turned into a sounding board to now a relationship. And it also adds an element of potential danger now for Rhaenyra. You shouldn't be doing this with council members, right? People who you trust. We saw it could go bad real quick. So I think it adds another element of like, she's taking a little bit of a risk here, I think, for her own passions and desires.
Oh, I think they're both taking a risk, but it seems that, Rhaenyra obviously needs a shoulder to cry on. She needs some emotional support here. It is, again, just the height of irony that these two women who've been kind of, shunned by Daemon Targaryen are going to come together. It's the weirdest kind of support group ever, I guess. I mean, a support group with benefits, I guess you would call it. I don't know. I mean, it has been a meteoric rise by Mysaria, maybe because she can just spit game. Like, she just tells Rhaenyra, "You're steadfast." Is that how you flirt now? Maybe am I doing it wrong? I've not ever I haven't used that one. Maybe I'll try and just be like, "You look nice and very steadfast." Do you think that'll work? I don't know if that'll work. It works for Mysaria.
I think you should try it this weekend. And let's just talk about like the ultimate blue ball scene. I mean, I thought this was hilarious because like, I think we've all experienced this where you're in the moment of like a passionate moment and then somebody just walks in and it's so awkward and you're just like trying to like just go away. But then it's such serious news that it's like, oh shit, now this is really over. So I thought that was kind of funny, but also, certainly realistic.
I would say that is the real impossible situation. And, that happens for a reason because dude saw somebody on Sea Smoke, well, they saw Sea Smoke. He's just flying around. He does that. That's fine. He does that.
Right.
But he's got somebody on his back. And this is one I cannot say a lot about, Jamie G, but when Sea Smoke was chasing Adam, did you get any indication that it was something other than he was just looking for a meal or to kill dude or something like that?
Yeah, once it was single-handed tracking him down and had him pressed up against the stone, I was like, oh wow, I think I know where this is going. We'll see where it goes, but yeah, I thought it was not necessarily hard to figure out once it kind of got singled out.
Right, and the one thing I guess I will point out that they teed up in the episode in the previous one a little bit, this idea that Sea Smoke was lonely, and this is a unique case because his rider isn't dead. Laenor took off to go do his own thing with his dude or whatever. So it's a weird thing for the dragon. And technically, Adam and Laenor are half brothers. So is this a case of where it's the closest thing that Sea Smoke could find to his regular rider, and that's why he kind of chose him? That's about the only thing I can come away with is like, well, if I can't get him, this is the next closest thing.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. And again, this is probably why Martin, George R.R. Martin came out and said more info is coming, because I think this is now you're starting to see these thought-provoking questions and trying to piece it together as terms of why. And it's probably a good idea to put some information out there and give the world the answers. But I think it's a good point, Mills. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and again, this is not something I know from the books or anything like that. To be honest, in the books, this is more of an open cattle call kind of. I believe like Corlys acknowledges like he actually brings them to Dragonstone to like audition to ride the dragons. Basically, it's more of a a gang gets invincible kind of deal where they just, hey, who wants to ride a dragon, baby? Come try, you might get roasted. So this is a different way of going about it. And I think probably more interesting and less expensive. So the show probably wins on both parts. And I thought it was a great ending where, like you said, they get interrupted. Dude gives Rhaenyra the news, and she's like, you know what? I'm just going to unleash the dragon. I'm not going to ask the council. I'm not going to talk to Jace. Maybe I'll say something to Mysaria, but I'm going to hop on Cyrax and I'm going to go see what's up. I thought that was a great ending, and really, I think gives you that momentum you're looking for heading into the penultimate episode of the season.
Completely agree with that. Mills, I think that about does it. Anything else before we move on?
Just want to point out that the table in Dragonstone there for the small council was still the best table in Westeros. That always looks cool and never fails to disappoint.
Yes.
And I am looking for the that Smallfolk T-shirt. We want meat. I don't know exactly what it would look like. I don't know exactly what you're crossing it over with or whatever, but I feel like there's something with "we want meat."
We want meat. I love it. I did recently see a shower curtain, Mills. That's just a beautiful marbling of a ribeye steak. I was like, oh man, that's a cool shower curtain. And it could go along with the we want meat thing. Anyway, when we discuss episodes of television, we do in fact enjoy coming up with alternative titles. Smallfolk is certainly spot on. It's definitely on the nose here, but it's not exactly exciting. Mills, do you have any other options for us?
Yeah, I got a couple. I'm mostly kind of sticking to something they can actually use as a title instead of having too much fun. I have No Longer Obliged, The Enemy Within. That's always a good one. That's definitely a fairly common TV episode title, but a good one. The Burden of Authority, and Halves of a Whole. How about you? Do you have any for us serious fun otherwise?
I do. I got a fun one again. I'm fresh off my fishing trip here, but how about the Queen of Fishes? Mostly because I consider myself the Prince of Fish. That's taken. Yeah, that's Steve's already got that. One that I really liked too was A Dragon Decides. I thought that would be really cool for this because it kind of, it would be exciting. You don't necessarily know, and then it would certainly pay off at the end.
Nice. And just if I was going to have fun, just give me flatterers and lick spittles. Got to work it in there.
Gotta have some lick spittles. That's fantastic. It is time to head out on the award tour, and our first stop is our favorite moment from Smallfolk. Mills, I'm up first here. I mean, look, obviously the dragon to Adam situation was great, but I'm actually gonna go with the Stefan and Sea Smoke scene. I thought this was really cool. That whole moment of will it work, will it won't, and then of course the ultimate burning was just a great moment here. I'm going there.
Nice. I'm going to go with that second Viserys scene where Daemon is grieving with him over the body of his dead wife. It was finally like getting to see Daemon have the chance to like do the right thing, right? And be human. And, perhaps that's kind of going to change his fortunes going forward because pretty much all of these visions have been negative. That's the first one that seemed to be a positive where he maybe took the road not traveled or whatever. So I thought that was a really cool moment, very unexpected. Enjoyed it and curious to see if it kind of, changes things going forward a little bit.
Next up on the award tour, we got our favorite quotes from Smallfolk. Mills, I went first, so you can lead us off this time.
All right. There were two nice and short but good quotes from Alice Rivers. I'm just going to go with the first one where she is referencing, maybe not everyone's cut out to be a king.
She never even wanted it. The crown. She spared it no thought.
Well, that's perhaps why your brother gave the crown to her. Perhaps those who strive for it are the least suited to wait it.
Don't lecture me!
And that's something that seems to have been true throughout Westeros history. You even see that into Game of Thrones, right? Where, ultimately, I won't even spoil it all completely, even though we could, but I think there is a lot of truth to that. So, and maybe that's what Daemon needs to change up, right? You need to win the people to win the throne instead of winning the throne to win the people or whatever. How about yourself? Favorite quote?
Yeah, I've got to go with Alicent to Aemond.
Have the indignities of your childhood not yet sufficiently been avenged?
Great camera work here, by the way, because you just see the one side with the patch and that giant chin and everything, and it was a great scene. But I just think that that's so powerful and what now Aemond is, and they've been teasing it with what he's become. He's full on there.
Yeah, he definitely is. That's just what I wish they hadn't burned in the teaser.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Our next stop is the Hot D hierarchy, our House of the Dragon power rankings. Mills, please remind everyone who we had last week, and then start us off with your number 5.
Previously on Ready to Die, Flagons and Dragons, my top 5 were number 5, Daemon, number 4, Rhaenyra, number 3, Kristen Cole, number 2, Jace, number 1, Aemon. Jamie G's top 5 were number 5, Aegon, number 4, Daemon, number 3, Alicent, number 2, Rhaenyra, and number 1, Aemon. Jamie G, new entry into the top 5 here. At number 5, give me Alice Rivers. She took out a lord. It appears she's got the ear of Daemon. She's definitely on the come up. She might have mystical powers. I don't know. She can at least command one owl, but maybe a whole. What's a group of owls? It's not a murder. I'm sure there's a word for it, but that's neither here nor there. JBG, who do you have at number 5?
Yeah, I've got Alicent at number 5. I mean, she's way down on the list now. I still think she has something inside of her that's going to kind of change the scope of what happens here as the war unfolds. But she's lost her position on the council. She's lost any sway with her sons, and I think she's lost part of herself. And she's seeing what's happening in the realm. She can't even go and light candles anymore without getting attacked and everything. It's really bad. So I'm putting her at number 5.
All right, who you got at 4?
At 4, I am going to keep Daemon. I still, look, he still has a dragon. He's still Daemon Targaryen, but he is, deep, deep, deep inside the boundaries of his mind, and he does not know how to break free. But yeah, tough run for Daemon here.
I can kind of sympathize with that. At number 4, I have another new entrant, Mysaria. Same kind of thing, right? Definitely crazy on the come up. Seems to now be right at the right hand of Rhaenyra. If Corlys is going to be out there, she is going to be her Gale Friday, right hand man, whatever you want to call it. Most definitely on the come up. New entry there. And at number 3, I am going to go with Daemon, rising 2 spots for me this week because he finally seemed to maybe accepted a couple of things. He got a break going his way. I think he is definitely on the come up again. Still has the number 2 dragon as far as we know. Jamie G, who do you have at number 3?
At number 3, I am also got a new entry, and I'm putting Mysaria there too. Look, she is not only the most trusted confidant and counsel of Rhaenyra, but her plan was executed to a T. She basically did the whole thing, and it worked. Not only that, she now could be the love interest of Rhaenyra. She's moved way up in the universe here. I've got her at number 3. At number 2, I am going to keep Rhaenyra. She's going back and forth with her position of strength and what's the right thing and wrong thing to do. And I think that's the true mark of a good leader. I mean, I mentioned this last week. Abraham Lincoln was tortured virtually his entire presidency over the Civil War and how much that affected him, right? In the pursuit of freeing slaves and everything else. That was the sign of a good leader. He knew the impact. He worried. It ate him up. It haunted him. I think she's going through the same thing here, not to compare Rhaenyra to Abraham Lincoln, but I think the analogy works to a certain degree. I've got her at number 2. I still think she's, look, dude, she's the queen to beat.
I don't know that I could do the beard on her, but I can see maybe the tall hat. That might work. And also, let's get Paul Bates to do a queen to be. That is always a great bit from coming to America. Yeah, no beating around the bush. I also have Rhaenyra at 2, up 2 spots for me, just like Daemon, all the things you said, and Aemon still at number 1. Maybe not a huge Aemon episode, but I don't think he really lost much ground here. Made a smart move by bringing Otto Hightower back in the mix, so no reason to take him down a peg. And I'm assuming you also have old One Eye at number 1 as well.
Unfortunately, I do. Yeah, I mean, I think he showed a little bit of of arrogance and petulance here that wasn't good, but he also showed some resolve with wanting to get Otto back. That's obviously the best move he can make, is get himself a good hand. It'll be interesting to see if Otto takes it or not. I'm sure he will, but it's a cool decision nonetheless. But yeah, he's still right now sitting on the Iron Throne as Prince Regent, and he is still got the biggest dragon in the realm.
That's all it takes these days, apparently. You know, a throne and a dragon, nothing much. Just those two things. To recap, my top five: at 5, I had Alice Rivers. 4, Mysaria. 3, Daemon. 2, Rhaenyra. 1, Aemon. Jamie G has at number 5, Alicent. 4, Daemon. 3, Mysaria. 2, Rhaenyra. And number 1, with a bullet, Aemon Targaryen. And Vhagar. We should probably put Vhagar on there, because I don't think he's up there without Vhagar.
Yeah, you take away Vhagar from Aemon, he's not even on the list, dude.
If he's king, he might sneak into the back end, but no, it's kind of like, yeah, you need a dragon or magic or some really good small folk control here to be in the. I like that, though. We have a varied top 5. It's not all just like power hitters or singles hitters or, you know, whatever you want to do. We got a nice mix going on, a well-balanced roster.
We 100% do. And next, we're going to be handing out our episode MVP awards for Smallfolk. Mills, I'll give you a break and go first here. There's a couple on the list here, but I am going to give it to Mysaria. Again, her plan was perfect. She deserves all the credit here. If it wasn't for her, this would have never happened. And it finally started to move the pendulum back a little bit to Team Black, and they needed this win so freaking bad. It's not even funny. She deserves it for me.
I also have to go with Mysaria, all the reasons we have discussed, what you just said. I will just say honorable mentions here. Gwaine and Viserys. So just a couple of honorable mentions. Since we doubled up, you got an honorable mention you want to throw out there? Or is it just Mysaria, and then you have to dig way down before you get to anybody else?
I'd like Alice Rivers here as honorable mention. I mean, she took out Tully. She connected. She summoned with Daemon. She summoned a freaking owl, and she is, dude. You want to talk about like the biggest psychonauts and psychedelic freaks in the universe? Go to Alice Rivers. She will have your mind spun, dude. Like, she's got him on another planet right now and has this entire season inside the walls of Harrenhal. So if you're into that sort of thing, she's your girl. But yeah, I think she's obviously way more powerful, way more involved than maybe what you thought, when you first kind of got an introduction to her.
Yeah, her game plays at Harrenhal. It would also work pretty well in the parking lot following Fish on tour, right?
She could definitely be on the lot.
Yeah, if acting isn't paying the bills, she could just stay in character, the actress, and just bring your supplies with you and follow Fish on tour, stay in character. Probably make a lot of money, especially if you command that owl. People will be really impressed.
If she could command the owl, she would do well there. So the final stop on the award tour is our episode grades. We each grade the episode of House of the Dragon on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale. Mills, how many flagons are you putting on the wall for the Smallfolk episode 6, season 2?
Well, so far we've had 5 episodes. My grades have had 4 between 85 and 89, and the other one, the Red Dragon, the Gold episode 4, all the way up at a 98. I really like this one, man. So I'm going to bump it up to my second favorite episode of the season, 90 flagons of ale, a flat 90, low to mid A. Really enjoyed it. I thought they finally found the right mix for one of these, episodes that doesn't have the huge action set piece. I thought they tied it all together. Good momentum, plot move forward, couple of laughs, couple of twists, very good. 90 flagons of ale on the wall. Jamie G, how many are you taking down and passing around?
I'm right there with you, a little bit under. I'm going to give it 88. Definitely a bump up from last week's episode. 88 flagons of ale. Take one down, pass it around. 88 flagons of ale on the wall. Good episode. I'm so excited about the penultimate and heading into the season finale. And I thought they did a good job kind of with some of these outlier stories, giving you interest and creating some intrigue. And it's hard to do when you got so many things going on. We've come to expect it from kind of Game of Thrones universe, but I thought they did a good job here.
Well, go ahead and give your crystal balls a tug, because it's time to give our predictions for episode 7 and the remainder of the season, which is only 2 episodes at this point. Just a reminder, I have read Fire and Blood, but I will be careful not to spoil any major plot points based on the books. We've both seen the episode 7 preview, so we will be spoiling that as well. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's on YouTube, on Max, whatever. It's about 45 seconds. All right, dude. So let me ask you, no Otto in the preview. Is Otto showing up next episode? We'll start there.
I think he does, and I think they're kind of saving that, but I don't think it's at King's Landing. I'm going to spin this one off, Mills. I think Alicent goes back to Old Town and she finds Otto.
Okay, we hear about Daeron being on the move, her youngest son. Could they be trying to come together? Will we see him, meet him next episode?
I think we get him in the season finale, but I think we get him this season.
Could him and Otto possibly be together?
They could.
How about
If
the
that's the
Starks?
case, then I guess we get him this episode.
How about the Starks? Is winter coming in episode 7, or are we waiting until episode 8?
I think, unfortunately, I think we're going to get it in episode 8. And I think it's just going to be, it's kind of going to be reminiscent of that scene where all the Targaryen ships are crossing the sea in Game of Thrones, where, you're kind of like, oh shit. And that's how they end the season or whatever. I think this is going to be a similar thing where you're getting the Starks marching to kind of maybe close out. That might be the last thing you see here in the season.
Okay, I like that. What do you think Adam Hall is going to ask for? You hear Rhaenyra ask him, what's your deal? That's my dragon, although like maybe not anymore. Is there's dragon rules as we know with Vhagar. What do you think dude is asking for?
I think the Adam storyline is so interesting, Mills, because they made a point in this past episode in Smallfolk here to say the people who want power and desire it the most are the worst ones to get it. He has been very clear about his self-interest this entire season. Every line you get with him, he's basically wanting, fame, money, power, everything for him. I worry that he's the worst person to inherit a dragon. So I think he's gonna get a smidge too big for his britches here, and maybe try to ask for the world.
And again, I think this is a shot. We got one of the earlier teasers or trailers with the 2 dragons on the beach. They just do a nice job of showing that Sea Smoke is as large as Cyrax. So this is right there like a tier 2 dragon, basically. No one is as big as Vhagar, but there's a couple in tier 2, and Sea Smoke is one of them. So, that's not like a wee baby dragon or something like that. How do you think this is going to shape out for Daemon here? We hear Oscar tell Daemon that he's made a mess of things. We hear him talk about something has to be done the old ways. Do you think Daemon's going to have to maybe answer for the actions he had the Blackwoods take against the Brackens?
I think they'll want him to, but I don't think he will. And I think, unfortunately, Daemon's gonna, fuddlebuck this and mess it up, and he's gonna lose whatever army he thought he had.
Oh, okay. So you think they set it up that he's got the big moment and he blows it again? Okay, I like that. How about Mysaria and Rhaenyra? Are they going to have some sort of romantic-ish relationship, I should say, going forward?
It's HBO. I mean, they've already done like son sleeping with mom. I think they're basically just Googling like most popular things on Pornhub and then trying to re-emulate them on the show. Yeah, the short answer is yes, it's HBO. I think they're going to do it. They're going to go there. We're going to get a full scene. Yeah.
Assuming that happens, will Daemon find out? And if he does, what is his reaction? Is he into it, or
this
is he
really
disgusted?
interesting because
I mean, it could go either way.
He'd either like want to join, or
I think he'd want to join. I think he'd shoot for the full throuple. I think that's right where he'd go. You kidding me?
I think he'll want to join, and
he's all about the
like,
power sharing situation. Maybe he's fighting the triarchy. Maybe they make their own little triarchy here.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who wants to sleep with and marry their niece, I think that's probably their sexual deviance. I don't know that there's anything off the limits for them. So.
No, they're a little tech-night-ish, and then everything I think is on the menu. What's up in the Vale there with this kind of unnamed dragon? You've already said you don't think they're going to go through and head over to Pentos. Will we get resolution on that by the end of the season, some way, shape, or form?
Mills, a dragon decides, and I think you're going to see it deciding one more time. I think that dragon will be claimed, and I think that there's a rider in the area right now that it will be claimed by.
Does Aemond and Vhagar get into another fight before the season is over?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, keeping the powder dry a little bit. It feels like, though, there has to be at least one more kind of major battle, whether or not there's dragons involved, before the end of the season, though, right? You got to go on something here.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got the Lannisters kind of in March here. I definitely think, will we see the lion? I hope so. But I do think that there is going to be one more battle, and I do think that there will be a dragon involved, but I do think it will be Team Black Dragon.
I'll make a minor prediction. At some point, we're going to see a dragon roast one of those lions and just kind of just eat it like it's nothing. Just a nice little metaphor for the Targaryens dominating the Lannisters. I think that'd be a fun. I could see that being a really cool shot too. Just the dragon post battle, just chowing down on some nicely scorched lion. I feel like that'd be a good one.
Yeah, it's.
Do you think Daeron will live up to the hype here? Right now, we've kind of heard like he's supposed to be maybe the quote unquote the best son or whatever. Do you think he can live up to that?
Curious to see who they cast. I'm sure they did a great job. I think he will, and I don't think they would have kind of mentioned him and teased him and then had that big conversation with Gwen and Allison if we weren't going to kind of get it. So I think he will, and I think we'll get it. The sad thing is, though, despite him being the good son, I don't think he'll ever get his shot to sit on the throne.
Fair enough. And how about Kristen Cole? Now that it's not quite going well for him, he might be out his hand. Is he going to try to change his fortune? Maybe he'll shave his beard this time. I don't know if a haircut will do the trick.
I don't think he will. I think he has to have the beard. I think
face tattoo, maybe face tattoo. I don't know. He's got to switch it up somehow.
He should maybe get the tear.
Interest, maybe
get the teardrop
get
for
the
that
tear.
last Rook's Rest.
Let's go with the tear tattoo and the Nelly bandage. We'll double up here. Maybe that'll work.
Yeah, that might work for him.
All right, I know enough. I don't really want to say too much more. You got any other random, real or fun? Any other predictions before we get out of here?
I think we're not done with the Smallfolk. I know we just had the episode titled Smallfolk, but I think we see that bleed over even more so. And I'm still sticking by the Smallfolk person that claims to be a Targaryen. Something's going to happen. We're going to see him. They've shown him too much. They've referenced it. We need dragon riders. There's still a big giant dragon or two underneath Dragonstone. I think something's going to happen here. I just don't know how, but I think we see something play out with him. At least more so, even if it's not, finality, it's enough to build off and go into season 3.
You know what would make people's heads explode and just piss them off? I would love. How about that the rat catcher's dog becomes a dragon rider? Why not the dog with the dragon, the new double D's? We get that bond going on. He seems like a nice dog. Dragons just want to play. They want to go out in the yard. They want to have a good time. They want to play some fetch. I don't know. I think that would be fun. I mean, they keep coming back to the dog, right? Why would you keep showing the dog if he wasn't?
I'm going to one up you just one here, Mills. He's a good old boy and he deserves it. Final, end of show prediction. Rhaenyra sits on the throne and she adopts the dog as the official pet of the Red Keep, and he gets to live a life of luxury that he deserves. Finally, get a bath and a good bit of food and all the tummy rubs and loving he can get.
I would like if he actually just rules for a couple of weeks and then somehow it's lost to history. The rule of King Good Dog the First or whatever just somehow gets just lost. It was only a couple of weeks, but they couldn't. It's like the towns that elect a dog as mayor. It could happen.
It could happen.
I'd rather him on a dragon than on the Iron Throne, but I would accept either. I mean, at this point, people keep failing. The dude's already failed. Give the chicks a shot. If they can't handle it, let's try it on. That's all I'm saying.
I am there for that. That about does it. Thank you guys for checking out Flagons and Dragons. We really love talking about all things Game of Thrones, and in this case, House of the Dragon. What a cool spinoff. What a cool kind of story and universe to dive into. We love talking about it. We love following along with you. Let us know your favorite moments from this one and give us your biggest prediction heading into the penultimate episode. And feel free to say the word penultimate because it feels good to say it. It's a very cool world. I love the word. And you know what? You can just drop a comment below, but only after you thumb and subscribe it. And if you like this, make sure you check out all of our other stuff because we do a bunch of cool stuff over on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. And don't forget, it's going to be football season real soon. So we'll be back with Seize the Gap Fantasy Football, all things going on over there. Make sure you thumb, you subscribe so you don't miss it. And then ultimately, I'd love for you to hop on your dragon. Make sure you can ride it. If he's got to pick you, they'll pick you. And then fly on into our DMs and get at us there. Love to interact with you guys and talk a little Hot D House of the Dragon. Mills will let you know where you can find us.
Well, first we'll be working on this marketing plan for the ultimate pen, the pen ultimate, so to speak. I don't know how that's going to work. We're going to check into the copyrights. Outside of that, just remember that you can find Flagons and Dragons on social media, at Dudes Watch Stuff, wherever you get your podcasts, on the YouTube. Thank you for remembering that. Just like the flaps, follow, like, and please subscribe. It's all there is to it. It's all we ask. If you had fun, please remember to hit the thumb. I'm Magnum Mills. That's Jamie G. We only have 2 more of these bad boys left, and we are really looking forward to them because after that, it's another 2-year wait, probably.
Don't you worry, because our flagons, they're empty. But even the worst bartender in Westeros should be able to get us a refill before we meet again. We'll see you then.
She's your queen to be.